There is something moving around you right now. Not behind you, not in the shadows of your room, around you. And the reason you haven't noticed it yet is exactly why it works. Most people will go their entire lives never understanding why certain things keep happening to them, why the same problems return, why the same doors keep closing, why there are days when everything feels heavier than it should, and no one can explain why. They will look for reasons in the wrong places. They will blame circumstances, other people, bad luck, timing, but our elders had a different understanding. They said, the thing that is hurting you the most is the thing you have never learned to see. That is what this is about, not a theory, not a belief system you need to adopt. Something that is already happening, something that has been happening for a long time. And today, for the first time, you are going to understand what it actually is. Before we go any further, if you are watching this right now, stop for one moment. Confirm that you are already subscribed to this channel and write in the comments the country where you are watching this from. I want to know how far the knowledge of my people reaches. I want to see where this message is landing, because what you are about to hear was not meant to be spoken in public spaces. This knowledge was passed down quietly, between elders and those who were ready to listen. Not because it was forbidden, not because someone was hiding it from you, but because some things can only be understood by those who are prepared to receive them. There is a reason this kind of knowledge has never been taught in schools, never appeared in popular books, never made it into the conversations most people have every day. It is not that it was hidden, it is that it was preserved. And there is a difference between those two things. Hidden means someone is keeping it from you. Preserved means someone was protecting it, waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right readiness. You are here now, so we continue. There is an old teaching from the Navajo people. It does not have a perfect translation into English, but the closest way to say it is this. The world you live in is not just the world you can touch. You already know this, somewhere deep inside you. You have felt it. The moments when a room feels different when someone walks in. The times when you visit a place and something in your body says, this is not right. The nights when sleep does not come and you do not know why, and no one around you has an explanation. That is not imagination. That is your awareness responding to something real. Our elders taught that every person carries what they called a living field, something that surrounds the body the way water surrounds a stone in a river. It is not a separate thing. It is part of you. It responds to everything you encounter. People, places, words, thoughts, events. Most people do not know this field exists. And because they do not know it exists, they do not protect it. They walk through their days completely open, absorbing everything, carrying things they were never supposed to carry, holding weight that does not belong to them. And over time, slowly, quietly, that accumulation starts to affect everything. How you sleep, how you think, how you feel when you wake up in the morning, how your relationships move, how your decisions come out, how your body feels from the inside. Not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly, steadily, the way water changes the shape of stone. You do not notice it is happening until one day, like something is different, and you cannot explain when it started. Let me show you how this works. It starts with thought. Every thought you have is not just a private event inside your mind. Our elders understood, and what modern understanding is slowly beginning to confirm, that thought has weight. Thought has direction. Thought interacts with the field around you. When you spend time in certain mental states, fear, resentment, grief that has no release, anxiety that runs quietly in the background like a machine you forgot to turn off, something begins to happen in the field around you. It does not announce itself. It does not send you a warning. It simply begins to shift the quality of your environment. And here is the part that most people never understand. Other things are drawn to that quality, not because you are weak, not because you are broken, but because like draws like. Because the field around you begins to speak a language, and that language sends out a signal. Now imagine this. You are having a difficult season. Things are not going well. You are stressed. You are worried. You are not sleeping well. You have not spoken to anyone about what is really happening inside you. You are carrying it, day after day, week after week, and slowly, the people around you begin to feel different. Your home begins to feel heavier. Your thoughts become harder to control. Your decisions start to drift in directions you would not normally choose. You think, this is just stress. This is just a difficult period. This will pass. But it does not pass, because no one told you what was actually happening. No one showed you the mechanism. This is the mechanism. The thought opens a space. The space becomes a pattern. The pattern becomes a condition. The condition becomes your experience of reality. And all of it, every step of it, happens below the level of what most people have learned to pay attention to. Now I need to stop here, because there is something most people believe about this that is completely wrong. When people feel something is off, when they feel that invisible weight, when they start to sense that something is following them through their days, they look for an object, something that was given to them, something in their home, something that belonged to someone else. And sometimes, yes, objects carry energy. This is real, but that is not where the real entry point is. The real entry point is not an object. It is not a person who wishes you harm. It is not a place you visited. The real entry point, the one that is almost never spoken about, is the unguarded moment inside yourself. The moment when you agreed with a thought that was not true. The moment when you accepted a version of yourself that someone else gave you. The moment when you stopped believing that you had the right to be protected, to be well, to be at peace. That moment, that is the door. Our elders did not spend most of their energy looking outward for threats. They spent most of their energy maintaining what was within, because they understood that an interior that is clear and rooted is not easily disturbed by anything from the outside. You were never taught this. You were taught to look for external causes to every internal condition. And that is why you keep looking in the wrong place. The object is not the problem. You already know where the problem is. Now let us be honest about what this actually costs. Not in dramatic terms, not with fear, just clearly. When this invisible process continues without interruption, without awareness, without correction, it begins to affect every layer of your life. The mind first. You start to notice that your thoughts feel less like your own. Doubt becomes louder than direction. You second-guess things you used to trust. Old fears resurface, fears you thought you had moved past. The inner voice that used to guide you becomes harder to hear, and in its place something that sounds like reason, but always leads you toward contraction, toward retreat, toward less. Then the body, tiredness that sleep does not fix, a heaviness that sits somewhere in the chest or the shoulders that has no medical explanation, tension that does not release. The body knows before the mind understands. The body is always the first to report. Then, the environment. You begin to notice that your home does not feel like rest, that the people closest to you feel further away, not because of anything said, but because something in the space between you has changed. Small conflicts that seem to come from nowhere, a quality in the air of your daily life that is different from what it used to be. And then, the decisions.
The time
This
has
is
come
the
for
part
us
that
to listen
costs
to
the
the
most.
earth.
When
We
you are
must
operating
protect
from
what
a
is sacred,
compromised field,
not just for
your
us,
decisions
but for the
drift.
7 generations
Not
to come.
dramatically. You do not make enormous mistakes overnight, but over time, your choices begin to move you in directions that serve something else, something smaller than your actual life, and you do not notice it happening because each individual choice seems reasonable at the time. This is how years pass. This is how people arrive at a life that does not look like the one they meant to build, and they do not understand how they got there. This is the consequence that no one talks about, because no one was taught to see the connection. Now, here is what matters, because this is not a story that ends in darkness. The same tradition that taught our people to see this also taught our people how to move through it. And the solution is not complicated. In fact, it is simple enough that when you hear it, part of you will think, that cannot be enough. But that reaction is part of the problem. We have been conditioned to believe that solutions must be complex,
The wind remembers the
that
names of our
healing
ancestors.
requires systems,
Today
that
we set our
protection
intention to
needs
walk in
tools.
balance,
The
honoring the
elders
earth
understood
and the
something
sky.
different. The first practice, morning acknowledgement. Before you speak to anyone, before you look at a screen, before the noise of the day enters, there is a window of time in the morning when the field around you is most clear, most quiet, most open. In that window, Ken, before it closes, you speak. Not loudly, not with performance, quietly, clearly, with full attention on what you are saying. You acknowledge that you are alive, that this day has not yet been written, that what moves through you today moves because you have allowed it to move, and that you, not the fear, not the accumulated weight, not the voices that are not yours, you are the one who decides what enters. This is not prayer in the way most people understand prayer. It is a declaration of sovereignty over your own field. It is you, consciously, closing the door that was left open. Every morning, before the world has a chance to walk through it unannounced. The second practice, conscious release before sleep. At the end of the day, before you close your eyes, there is something the elders called laying it down. Not suppressing, not denying, not pretending the day was something it was not, but consciously, deliberately, separating yourself from what you carried during the hours that are now finished. You say, internally, or in a whisper, this was today. Today is ending. I am not taking this into the night. And you name it, whatever was heavy, whatever was unresolved, whatever lodged itself somewhere in your chest or your thoughts, you name it, you acknowledge it, and you tell it. You do not sleep here. This is not metaphor. This is a real act of energetic housekeeping. Because what you carry into sleep, you carry deeper. And what you carry deeper becomes more rooted. And what becomes more rooted becomes harder to separate from yourself. The elders knew this. They practiced this. They taught it to the next generation, not as ritual for ritual's sake, but as practical maintenance of the most important thing any person owns, themselves. The third practice, guardianship of what you speak. The Navajo teaching of Hoju, harmony, balance, beauty in the walking, is not achieved through silence. It is achieved through intention in sound. What you speak aloud has a different weight than what you merely think. Words spoken from the mouth carry into the field. They settle, they shape, they invite. When you speak of yourself with contempt, even casually, even as a joke, something in the field registers it as instruction. This is how we are treating this person. This is what we have been told to bring. When you speak of your future with certainty, even quiet certainty, something in the field responds to that too. The elders were careful with their words, not fearful, not silent, careful. There is a difference. Begin to notice what you say about yourself when no one important seems to be listening, because something is always listening, and it is taking notes. I want to leave you with something one of our elders once said, not with drama, not with urgency, just clearly. The one who cannot see the wind does not doubt that the wind is real. He has felt it on his face. He has watched what it does to the trees. He knows the wind by its effects. What we have spoken about today, you have already felt its effects. You have felt the heaviness, the unexplained tiredness, the days that move against you without reason, the quiet sense that something is off and you do not know what. Now you have a name for it. More importantly, now you have a practice, not a complicated one, not one that requires anything you do not already have. Just consciousness, attention, the willingness to show up at the beginning and end of each day and say, I am here. I am the one who decides, and I am paying attention. That is enough to begin. That is enough to change the quality of what you are moving through. The world you live in is not just the world you can touch, but the tools you need to move through it well. They are also closer than you think. They are already in you. They have always been in you. The elders simply remembered to say so. Walk in beauty. Walk in awareness. Walk knowing that what cannot be seen can still be understood. And that understanding, is protection.